The night was dead silent in Memphis. Only the slow, steady drip of rain outside Graceland's opulent gates broke the hush. Inside, in the heavily guarded master suite, a young woman sat rigid in a plush velvet chair. Her name was Priscilla, but her identity had been erased. She wasn't just planning a divorce. She was planning an escape from a fortress of fame, a fortress her husband, Elvis Presley, had built around her love. It wasn't a lack of love that drove her. It was the suffocating reality that the man she married was being slowly replaced by a paranoid, pill-addicted shadow. The world saw a king. She saw a patient suffocating under the weight of his own crown. Tonight, she would make a choice that would either save her soul or seal the tragic fate of the man who promised her forever. The real reason for her departure is darker than any tabloid headline. Their story began under the chilly German skies of 1959. Elvis, the global rock and roll idol, was serving in the U.S. Army. Priscilla Beaulieu, a beautiful 14-year-old girl, was the ultimate fantasy. He was captivated by her innocence, her willingness to be molded. It was a fairy tale that began with a dark, unspoken contract. "I will bring you to Graceland," he promised, "but you must wait for me." The age gap, the secrecy, the forbidden nature of the relationship only fueled the fire for the young soldier who craved control as much as adoration. The world saw a romance. Elvis saw a clean slate, a woman he could possess entirely, shielded from the toxic cynicism of Hollywood. But the price of this possession was her freedom. When Priscilla finally arrived at Graceland, she wasn't treated as a fiancée, but as a prized possession. The rules were absolute. She was to be seen, not heard, her makeup, her hair, her clothes, all dictated by Elvis. The most damaging rule? The commitment to wait until marriage. This wasn't romance. It was a deeply ingrained form of psychological control. Priscilla lived in a mansion full of people, the Memphis Mafia, yet was utterly alone. The king was constantly absent, pursuing stardom, leaving her in a golden gilded cage of her own making, waiting for a man who rarely kept his promises. She felt the heavy weight of his expectation, a weight that promised to crush her identity. But the real isolation was yet to come. The 1967 wedding was a spectacle, short, glamorous, and utterly deceiving. The diamond ring, the champagne, the famous faces, it was all a facade. What the cameras didn't capture was the mounting anxiety in Priscilla's eyes. She wasn't marrying the boy from Germany. She was marrying the king of 1,000 demands and the prisoner of his own fame. Their marriage was less a partnership and more a business arrangement built on the crumbling foundation of a decade-long wait. The truth was, the marriage began the moment the real Elvis started disappearing behind the persona. But how did their beautiful daughter, Lisa Marie, fit into this collapsing kingdom? Elvis's triumphant return to live performance in Las Vegas in the late 60s was the beginning of the end for their domestic life. While Elvis basked in the spotlight, Priscilla was left in Graceland, increasingly isolated. The house was full of the Memphis Mafia, Elvis's loyal, often enabling crew, who served as both his court and his jailers. They shielded him from reality and shielded Priscilla from him. Priscilla began to see the ghosts of Elvis's affairs in every empty room. The specter of Anne Margaret, the countless uncredited one-night encounters facilitated by the Mafia, haunted her waking hours. Her role was simple: to be the perfect wife, silent and beautiful, waiting for her increasingly absent husband. She was drowning in the loneliness of being the king's wife. The drugs weren't a secret. They were a systemic part of Elvis's life, facilitated by the Mafia and doctors who rarely said no. As Elvis's dependency grew, his paranoia and volatility skyrocketed. Priscilla, once his confidant, was now just another member of the entourage walking on eggshells. There are accounts of his sudden rages, his demands, and the chilling emptiness in his eyes when the medication took hold. One account details Elvis forcing Priscilla to take a firearm into a car on a late-night drive, a morbid game that highlighted his terrifying instability. Her life was perpetually on high alert, the glamour of Graceland dissolving into a high-stakes, low-trust environment. But the true act of rebellion was still to come. The breaking point didn't come in a shout or a dramatic confrontation. It came in a quiet moment of profound self-realization. Priscilla looked in the mirror one morning and realized she was seeing a stranger. Her entire identity had been borrowed. A look, a style, a life chosen entirely by Elvis. She was 20-something, beautiful, and trapped. The greatest tragedy was that she still deeply loved the man he used to be. But to stay meant losing the woman she might still become. The time for silent obedience was over. She sought freedom in the most unlikely place, a martial arts studio. Priscilla's journey toward independence began with a forbidden interest, karate. Seeking a physical and emotional outlet, she began training with instructor Mike Stone. Mike Stone represented everything Elvis was not: stability, independence, and a connection to the outside world. The affair that followed was not merely an act of betrayal, it was a desperate cry for validation and humanity. It was the moment Priscilla finally, tragically, claimed a piece of herself back, even though that piece belonged to another man. But how did Elvis, the king of control, react when he discovered her defiance? When Elvis discovered the affair, the response was swift and brutal, but not the way most people imagine. His anger was not fueled by jealousy in the classical sense. It was the white-hot fury of a monarch whose territory had been violated. He viewed Priscilla's independence as an insult to his absolute authority. Accounts from the Memphis Mafia reveal a chilling statement by Elvis. "I want that guy dead. I want him taken out." The king, who preached peace and lived in a mansion of biblical devotion, ordered a hit on his wife's lover. The Mafia ultimately dissuaded him, but the threat, the sheer lack of control he felt, cemented Priscilla's decision. She was in danger, physically and mentally. This terrifying moment was the true catalyst for the final split. The day she left Graceland was quiet. There was no screaming, no public spectacle. She simply packed a few belongings, walked through the famous gates, and breathed the free air. But the greatest drama played out in the courtroom. The 1973 divorce was surprisingly amicable, marked by one poignant gesture. Elvis sang her the song, "You Gave Me a Mountain." The media called it closure, but for Priscilla, it was a contract of survival. She walked away with $1.5 million in joint custody of Lisa Marie. But more importantly, she walked away with her life. She was free, but Elvis was left alone with his demons. Against all odds, their relationship transformed post-divorce. The pressure of being the perfect king and queen was gone, replaced by a genuine, affectionate friendship built around co-parenting Lisa Marie. They would speak for hours on the phone, sharing a bond that the marriage itself had destroyed. But this newfound intimacy served only to highlight the tragedy of what could have been. Priscilla was the only one who truly understood the darkness Elvis was battling, but now she was too far away to pull him back. She could only watch the king's self-destruction from the sidelines. In his final years, Elvis became more erratic, more isolated. His final, pathetic performances were a testament to his spiraling decay. Priscilla watched from a distance, feeling a crushing sense of powerlessness. The tragedy of her escape was that by saving herself, she confirmed his descent. He was now surrounded only by enablers. One night, months before his death, Elvis made a strange, final call to Priscilla. The details are private, but the feeling it left was a sense of finality and farewell. She had escaped the cage, but the king remained inside, eating himself alive. Did she know that phone call would be their last? August 16th, 1977. The phone rang. It wasn't Elvis. It was the call Priscilla always feared, but had almost learned to dismiss. He's dead! The man who had been her god, her husband, her tormentor, and her truest friend, was gone. The world cried for their king. Priscilla cried for the boy from Germany. Her decision to leave had prolonged her life, but it couldn't save his. The contract was finally, tragically, complete. The story does not end here, however. The biggest battle was still to be fought: the preservation of his name. Priscilla's role didn't end with his death. The Presley estate was collapsing, marred by mismanagement and debt. She became the fiercely protective guardian of his legacy, turning Graceland from a private residence into the global shrine it is today. This was her final, selfless act of love, ensuring the memory of the king would outlast the memory of the tortured man. Her life post-Elvis was a testament to the strength she cultivated during her years of isolation. She proved that she was not just a side character in his drama, but the heroine of her own. Today, Graceland stands as a monument to a dream, but the truth is preserved in the silence of those who survived him. Priscilla's story is the most profound revelation about the high cost of fame and the devastating power of isolation. Her heartbreak contract was signed with a pen, but sealed with the tears of a woman forced to choose between her own survival and the man who wore the crown. The greatest untold story of Elvis Presley is the one about the woman who chose freedom over the throne. If you believe the truth is always louder than the music, subscribe now. Next week, we explore the shocking truth about Elvis's final hours. Was his death truly an accident, or was it a deliberate act of medical negligence? You won't want to miss the secrets the doctors tried to bury.